Hey everybody, it's Rob here. Blizzard just posted patch notes for a patch hitting the live Season 9 game here next week on Tuesday, July 15th. We got buffs throughout the board. We got buffs for Spiritborn. We got a ton of buffs here for the Barbarian, Druid, Necromancer, Rogue, and even some Sorc buffs here. We got a bunch of quality of life changes for the sins of the Horadrims. We got Artificer Pit Keys. We're finally getting hotfixes for the Forgotten Souls. Legion events are gonna be useful again. And there's also some stuff and bug fixes here, for example, for the Obduxite farm. So overall, big W, great stuff. No one got a nerf. Only buffs to the characters and then some slight farming slash bug fixes. So let's get into it. Patch notes gonna be linked below. So first of all, we're starting with the Spiritborn. This is like very minor stuff. They did not address the double dipping. So the Sorcerer has been bug fixed. But what the Spiritborn is doing here with the Jaguar Hall and the double dipping on many different things has not been addressed. But Spiritborn has been gotten pretty cool buffs here. Payback, Razor Wings is slowly creeping in. I don't really think it's gonna like change the Spiritborn meta because it's all revolving around the bug and the double dipping with the Mystic Circles and stuff. But still, it's great to see some of these underperforming builds getting a buff here. Some minor bug fixes here, but then here we go, Barbarian. Barbarian probably has the longest patch notes. Barbarian, if you're looking at the current fan leaderboards here, is sadly in the last place, a whole 20 pit tiers behind the strongest class, which is Spiritborn, and they just barely do like pit 100. They did 105, and there are some small buffs coming here first to the Battle Trance. For those of you who don't know, this is the Frenzy Amulet. It looks like this. The only problem with this amulet, even if they buff it, it's used to basically buff other skills with Frenzy, but it doesn't buff necessarily the attack speed here of Frenzy itself. You can see other skills are getting buffed. So while this damage buff to 30% is certainly nice, it's not gonna make Frenzy suddenly viable or more viable. Frenzy doesn't even play with this amulet because you wanna play adaptability here. So this is like not really a big change. Then we got buffs to all of the core skills. So we got about 20% buff to double swing. We got a 60% buff. We're going from 110 to 175. 60% multiplicative X buff to Hammer of the Ancients. We have a very small and underwhelming Rend buff. We have another 50% and higher buff coming to Upheaval, the skill that no one plays. Then we have even a Whirlwind buff. Whirlwind has been gotten a lot of buffs in basically every patch. It gets another 50% buff. If you're calculating here, 76 divided by 52, you can kind of see it gets another 46% multiplier. So Whirlwind another 50% stronger. And we are also seeing some buffs here to the core, to the key passive revolving around Thorns. The only problem is like Thorns Barb is so far behind with this Barbed Carpus. I feel like they could add a 0 to this, and it would still not compete with the Thorns Spiritborn. So right now, the Thorns playstyle on Barb is pretty much dead, and it's gonna stay dead. Overall, guys, these are nice changes, and I think they go in the right direction. However, for us Barbs out there this season, it's sadly not gonna change any of the current power level. If you're looking here, even on this like leaderboards here, if you're looking for an Upheaval Barb, you know you get a 4/4. Like Upheaval is so bad, people are not even playing it. I don't know about double swing. If someone here played double swing, yeah, you see, there's not even anyone here that even plays these skills because they're so far behind. And even if they buff it, you know, by 10% here, like on Rend, I think they could add so much more damage. And it's still gonna be underwhelming. Like Hoda at some point might be like half viable in Torment 4 and stuff, and so is Whirlwind. But completely forget doing pit 100 or leveling your gems with this. Like it is not gonna work, and it still needs a lot more juice. But again, it's a step in the right direction. We hope to see more changes for the Barbarian in either a mid-season patch or for the next season. It's certainly cool to see some small stuff here. The Druid, one of the strongest builds here, the Pulverized Puddle Druid, gets even more buff. They buff the damage of Pulverize. So Druid at the moment is already clearing third highest, 112, and it's probably going to buff it, you know, by another tier or so. So the Pulverized Druid is going to eat very good here. And then also some love is coming here to the great stuff of the Crone, some of the basic skill stuff, which I was kind of hoping to see on Barb as well, or just in general a revert of the nerfs that they have done to the, I think, Shard of Iranthiel, to the Moonrise aspect, to the aspect of the Moonrise, to the adaptability. I feel if they revert some of those core basic skill nerfs that they have done. I think it would be great throughout all the classes. It would certainly be good for BARB. It would buff Lunging Strike. It would be buffing, you know, the Heartseeker Rogue. It would be buffing like all the basic skills. So I would love to see that as well as a generic change. I never understood why they reverted why they had to nerf all the basic multipliers, you know, such as Shadow of Ivantil and Moonrise, but we'll see. That's not happening yet. Then we got more buffs to the Necromancer. This is like the key passive for the Golem that gets a big nerf here. This gets a big buff here. This is the Hulking Monstrosity. Now gives even more summon damage, so that's really cool to see because, you know, the skeleton mages have been dominating and now we get some golem power here. This is a pretty significant buff, giving a 60x multiplier. Pretty cool. And then on Rogue here, we are seeing a buff to Flurry throughout the board. You can kind of see here the Death Mask is getting an upgrade and the Flurry aspect here is also getting a damage buff. So Flurry Rogue is getting up a couple of tiers in the pits. Pretty cool, because this item, the Death Mask, was pretty underwhelming. I think they started at 40%, then they buffed it to 70%, and now they're buffing it to 100%. We can kind of check here if anyone is even playing Flurry. Yeah, so also here on the... Let's go on Rogue. Okay, there's a 93 clear here with using Flurry. So probably this Rogue is still going to struggle doing Pit 100. But these buffs certainly going to help it a bit, doing like maybe a Pit 95 or something. Then on Sorcerer, the first big thing here is no nerfs to the Hydra Sorcerer. So Hydra Sorcerer is still going to go strong. Like, those guys are still mean and they go crazy. So Sorcerer is still looking extremely powerful here. The Meteor is getting a bit of a buff. It's not going to, like, you know, match the power level of Hydra. Like, Hydra is like 3-4 times stronger. But at least you're getting like a 20% on Meteor. You're getting Frozen Orb buffs and Frozen Memory. He also gets another multiplier here for Avalanche, which is pretty okay. Then, going away from the class balance, getting into here the Season of the Horadrim. So, the Arcana will now be auto-magically picked up. If we go in-game here, looking at the Horadic Spellcraft, lots of people were complaining that they could not get the blue powers. And this was because whenever the blue power dropped, it just looked blue on the ground. And many people like stopped completely picking blue, white, and yellow items because they're completely useless. And they couldn't really tell when an Arcana dropped. So now they're changing them, so you don't have to click them, and they're gonna get auto-magically picked up here from you. So that's pretty cool. Then there are some other small changes here, like quality of lives, you know, less channeling time for the artifacts in the escalating nightmare dungeons and stuff like that. That's a big W. And then a very cool change here as well. Clearing the pit awards additional stones. So if we're going into the city here, so people, at least in previous seasons, especially if they were like, you know, doing like high pits or something, they've been constantly running out of these stones. And if we're going in the game here, it costs you, see, opening a pit costs you 3 of these stones, right? Like if I want to open 150 here, it costs 3 of the artificial stones. And lots of people were running out of them, playing a lot of pits. Now, whenever you successfully clear the pit, on a high tier, you get more stones out of it. So you pay 3, and you got 8 to 9 in return if you're doing 100 or higher, which is the pushing tier. So that basically is going to allow players to play way more pits. And also in the speeds here, if you guys are playing like, you know, pit 70 or pit 79 like we are playing, you are paying 3 stones and then you're getting 2 or 3 out of them, basically indefinitely being able to keep the stones. So that's a pretty cool change, especially for those people who like to, like, you know, play high on the ranks. I still think they should just remove remove this material completely. I don't understand like why it needs to cost keys to open the pits. Like, it makes no sense, especially with this change now. Like, you're basically just maintaining anyway. So I think they could just remove it and make it simplified. But either way, next item that players were very, very concerned about here is the amount of Forgotten Souls. And it looks like they are finally making the Legion events viable. Now, obviously, we don't know any numbers here, but the Legion events are getting a huge salvage material buff here for Forgotten Souls, and it's scaled like with the Torment difficulties. So you're getting Forgotten Souls here, and also the Horadric chests in Nightmare Dungeons. They're also going to reward more salvage material and more Forgotten Souls. Many people basically been running out whenever they masterwork the items because we don't have like a checkpoint system or anything. And they've been not kept by Obduxite because there's like some crazy farming methods for Obduxite we're going to talk about here in a second because there's changes to that as well. But they've been running out of Forgotten Souls. So yeah, like the ratio was just not there, and now they are buffing the Forgotten Souls, and they are like kind of bug fixing / nerfing the Obduxite drops. And we're gonna talk about that in a second. Anyways, Forgotten Souls is got big buffed. Then the next change here is the Forgotten Wisdom. So this is like the affix that you can get on your keys. That's why I was in this Nightmare Dungeon here. I'll show this to you real quick. So you can have this affix here where you get... I don't even know why I don't see it, but this is like the Forgotten Wisdom, and you see you get these like XP bubbles, and they call these XP bubbles motes, and they significantly buff the experience that the motes are granting, and they also make the XP bubbles here split the experience between the different party members. They also increase the maximum amount of the bubbles that can spawn. So there's a ton of cool changes here. Like right now, you see I'm Paragon 298. I need 700 million XP almost. And you can kind of see, this thing gives me 8,000. Okay, I don't know why I'm on Torment 1. But anyways, this thing gives me 8,000. I think on Torment 4 they give slightly more. But anyways, like this is like basically no experience that you're getting from these things. I probably was doing some little scaries. But yeah, so if you play this, like it's going to be still a bit annoying to pick them up. But if you pick them, they're going to be shared between your party members, and I don't think they need to... I think they need to significantly, like, you know, buff the XP. I'm getting 8,000, and I need, like, 700 million. I think on Torment 4 you get something like 30,000. But you still need, like, hundreds and billions of XP for the higher levels here. And yeah, it's very cool to see here, and hopefully they buff it a lot, because it was scaling with the character level, and I think that was really good. So we'll see. Maybe there's going to be even a new XP meta revolving around these bubbles. Maybe it's going to be at least somewhat competitive to the pits. Like right now, obviously, the only way to farm XP is do non-challenging pit runs. That's another problem. But that's certainly a cool change. And then there is a bunch of more bug fixes here. Iron Maelstrom, like a bunch of stuff. A couple things that I want to highlight here is this one. So fixed an issue where Strong Room encountered during the Ember Yet Smolder quest could be indefinitely farmed if the player never picked up the Blood Relic. So you guys remember the Do Not Redeem memes? This was the Obduxite farm that we made a video about. Blizzard doesn't like us repeatedly farming this quest, so they are changing it. But they are only changing it in 4 days. So this allows you to, you know, get like a good amount of Obduxite. You can like target farm about like 70,000 Obduxite per hour with this. This is getting changed on Tuesday. So they don't hotfix this, but they will fix this in the long term. If you don't pick up the relic, you can still farm it for quite a few days. And maybe if you want to stack out on some Obduxite, it's going to be changing July 15th. I don't see any bug fix for the Liar boss. So what people are also doing is simply opening a Horadrim Strongroom key, and I can show this to you here for a second as well. And then they can basically spawn the Horadrim Strongrooms in the Duriel, in the Zia layers and stuff. So people are doing that. I don't see any hotfix coming for that, so people probably gonna move to this. But yeah, it's not a big deal. It's just a nice way, I think, if you're like a solo player, to farm some Obduxite. And yeah, that's getting changed here with the Bloody Relic. I mean, it was kind of like a stupid mechanic, so I totally agree that this is not going to be, like, you know, this nice of a farming strategy. But, you know, for a solo player, it was kind of nice to get this Obduxite without having to rely on group play and sharing the Tribute of Refinements and sharing the keys and stuff. So this is going to go on Tuesday, guys. You still have a couple of days. There's a lot of other changes here coming as well, but I think that's been like the most significant changes. So very cool to see the class balance buffs. I don't think it's going to be enough, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. One problem that I don't see here is anything with the Lilith fight. So people were trying to fight Lilith and get their sparks from Lilith, but there's been a problem where Lilith gets completely immortal if you fight her, right? And I can show this to you here real quick. So I'm just going to head to Lilith real quick. We're going to probably make a layer boss video on Tuesday. We'll see. And yeah, the Spiritborn bug fix is also not happening yet. Hopefully that's still going to happen in the future. Because the Spiritborn is like 10 tiers ahead of all the other classes. And yeah, using like 3 different bugs. I think it could be coming down a bit. I mean, I like that Spiritborn is strong, right? It has been weak for a long time. But it's just based on a bug, guys. Okay, so the problem here is with Lilith. You can kind of see, I'm going to do it like bad now. So once you fight her, Like, she basically gonna be completely immune forever. Like, there's this big bug if you do too much damage to her, which, I mean, we are playing a Hydra Shock. Like, this bug might not happen on BARB, because BARB doesn't really have any damage this season yet. But, you know, on a Sorcerer, if you kill Lilith instantly, she basically is gonna enter an indefinite state here of just having to TP around and you can't kill her. You see, like now, like she's just never gonna leave this stage. Like, she just indefinitely is gonna do this. Like, I can be in this game here for 10 hours and I would never be able to kill her. It's like an immortality bug that happens if you deal too much damage. So you're actually suffering from success here doing this. Like, she's gonna be stuck in this phase forever. I'm probably gonna make a separate video like how to like unphase her. You basically just don't deal damage to her and then you can like still phase her. But now this fight is completely bugged and I basically have to leave or die in order to even like, you know, like progress the fight. Like, this is just gonna take forever. And we're probably gonna leave it at that. But yeah, this Sorcerer is clear. I mean, obviously we're playing the Hydra Sorcerer. Like, this Sorcerer like completely can't die and you can like take a buff here and she's not gonna kill you. But yeah, anyways, Lilith is still unkillable in many cases, so unless you want to scuff your character, you cannot get the spark at the moment. Hopefully that's going to get addressed soon. Overall, again, I think pretty good patch, and we'll see what's going to happen with all the items here. Definitely nice to see some of the class updates, and maybe we'll get to see some more buffs. I hope you enjoyed, my friends, and I will see you soon. Take it easy, my friends. Peace! One thing I forgot as we are still fighting the Immortal Lilith, what does this mean for the class leaderboards, and is there anything going to be changing in terms of class balance? And if we're looking at the tier list here, I do not think anything is going to change. Like, BARB is going to remain the weakest class, Rogue is going to remain the second weakest class, Spiritborn is going to remain the strongest class. I don't even think any builds really, you know, make any moves in the tier list because the numbers are like very minor. And in order to move up, for example, looking at the core skill BARB, they would need like a 10x or something. And I just don't see this happening with this patch. So no nerfs to any of the bug builds either. So I think the tier list is pretty much going to stay exactly the same. This is still updated. Just because no one is playing Touch of Death right now doesn't mean it's bad. And we're probably going to add a Rake build here because Rake's been dominating. But again, guys, if you play Spiritborn, just know that it's completely based on like various amounts of bugs. And it's not really like a build that can be achieved by normal players that don't, you know, make use or abuse these like 3 different kind of bugs. We'll see what's going to happen in the future, guys. We're going to test a patch on Tuesday and we'll see what the object side farming and stuff is going to bring. Let's go. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a like or a comment. I'm also live on Twitch almost every day, so come and say hi.